Welcome everyone to the Deal Finder Corner. So this is your weekly property talk show brought to you by Property Filter, hosted by myself, Guillaume Black, your favorite Frenchman, the CEO and co-founder at Property Filter. It's the highest rated platform to find deals. And as you know, we're on a mission to help our members and deal sourcer members to find yet again another 1,000 deals this year, thanks to the Property Filter blueprint. And really the purpose with these calls and these Deal Finder Corners is to give you more and the best of the available resources by inviting expert guests who will share with you the latest and most current strategies and tactics and secrets about what actually works right now in terms of finding and making deals and the reality of systemizing and running the high-performance business in property. So it really is my pleasure to introduce to you today my good friend, Carlys Houston. So Carly is an award-winning property investor. She has well over 14 years of experience buying and developing properties in the Brighton area. And before launching the apart hotel business with Stuart, Carly has been building an extensive portfolio specializing in social housing and supported housing for disadvantaged people. She's been a property coach, trainer, and mentor since 2015 and has worked with hundreds of investors in both group or one-to-one settings, helping them achieve their property goal. So Stuart and Carly has developed the apart hotel. They have developed and operated apart hotels since 2017, I believe, and have refined highly systemized business models and helping people do the same. So with many years of experience in the sector, development, finance, operation of such assets, of course, with all the design elements and all the marketing to filling it and increase the occupancy. So in this session, we'll learn about all things apart hotel, which is the hottest service accommodation strategy right now. And what you can expect is upskill your knowledge on, as I said, the hottest property strategy for short stays at the moment. Learn how you can benefit from any government change and legislation. Don't be that person moaning and bitching about planning changes. Use it as an advantage. Change is inevitable. When the wind change, change the set of the sails. And so then we'll talk about how you can convert guest houses, hotels, B&Bs into highly profitable automated apart hotels. And then we'll have the opportunity, Carly will give us some hints, or we can get the opportunity to be ahead of the curve by targeting these buildings that most service accommodation industry are unaware of. And then hopefully we have some time for an exclusive Q&A, which I'm very much looking forward to. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about Carly's talk today. So please give her a massive Property Filter virtual welcome to Miss Carlys Houston. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Guillaume. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Great to see you. It's nice to be in, doing the presenting when we've got the cameras on and stuff. Often you're just doing webinars and you can't see people, so it's nice to see some of the cameras on. So thanks for having me. Always lovely to see you, Guillaume. And please do ask questions as we go. I'll have time to answer questions at the end, but obviously if there's questions coming to you, type them in and we'll be able to look at them at the end and review those. Can I just see either a bit of a show of hands, or for those of you that are that I can't see, type in the chat box just to get an idea of who's here. Who of you are kind of already doing service accommodation, or you're just interested in service accommodation, or if you're doing another property strategy, what is it? Maybe you're already having a apart hotel or guest house, so would be great. So Michael's doing SA, Guillaume not doing SA personally, any other shares, Ada's doing SA. Hardeep's doing SA in social housing, very good. Cool, okay, so Phil's thinking about it, RK's doing it, Mary not started but interested in villa lets, very nice, okay. Nigel doing buy to let and HMO and interested in SA, Jennifer's interested, and okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about apart hotels, which is a hotel model, but we're going to be talking about service accommodation as well, and how they integrate well, and how you can sort of move from one to the other, or actually do them alongside each other. So just go give you a brief overview of what we're going to actually cover today. So how to identify the right kind of buildings to convert into a part hotel, which is which, you know, these buildings are you are able to find them, as Gillian said, not everyone is looking in this market. We're also talking about increasing the number of lettable guest units within a single building without the need for planning permission. Okay, more on that to come. And also how to get part hotels to deals to stack in the market. As Gillian said, the market is always changing. It's just about how we adapt to it. You know, people, you know, like as Gillian said, you see a lot of people that are investors, and the ones that maybe not doing as much maybe are complaining about the fact you can't get deals to stack anymore. Well, the market changes all the time. Yeah, it's absolutely true that the deals that stacked 5 years ago might not be the same deals that stack today. So it's really just understanding how you adapt to that. And also, you know, really important to design a great product. If you're in the short stay market, if you're in any property market, the way that you get business, the way that you get people, customers coming in, is to ensure that you have a great product. And, you know, I know that Property Filter and Gillian are all about systemization. We want to be working on our business, not in it. So we want to systemize this business. We don't want to be involved in the day-to-day grind and operations. We want to be working on the business at a strategic level that's going, you know, we're not talking about abdicating, we're not talking about not being involved at all, but we want to be involved at a CEO, director, strategic level. So just a little bit about myself and Stuart. So firstly, about me. So some of you recognise some names. So, you know, we've probably met or been on webinars together before. But my name's Carly Houston. So I'm based in Brighton and Hove on the South Coast, despite this accent. So obviously originally not from down here, originally from Glasgow. But I've been living down here a long time, and I've actually been investing in property since 2009. So bought a buy-to-let in 2009 with my mum. You know, my sister was my tenant, so it was all very, it wasn't professional, it wasn't serious, and it took me a little while to sort of work out how to do it professionally. So it was really around 2013 I decided to invest in myself and my education. And that's when everything took off for me. Okay, so worked with my sister initially, and we built our property portfolio. And actually, we didn't have any of our own funds to start out with. We didn't have liquid funds to invest in property. So we had to straight away get our heads around the idea that we had to use other people's money. So every single project that I've done, every single property project that I've done has used other people's money. So working with investors and joint ventures, and we bought everything as well. So it's all purchase property that have involved big refurbs. So it meant quite a lot of money over the years. So I'm talking to you about part hotels. So the key, I've done lots and lots of different property projects. Okay, I've done flips, title splits, converting buildings to flats, but my specialisation is apart hotels, which obviously I'm talking to you about today. And prior to that, I was working to build an HMO portfolio, which I did with my sister. So we've actually got an HMO portfolio with over 100 rooms in it, and we work specifically in providing quality accommodation to disadvantaged people and supported housing. Okay, I've been a property coach and mentor since 2015, and that's something I'm really passionate about helping people achieve their goals and working with them to be successful in their property journey, and really making sure that you're building that property business in line with your core values as well, which is something that I really specialise in. Okay, so some of you also might know my business partner, Stuart Scott. So this is who I do the apart hotels with. He's very much involved in the business and what I'm talking to you about today. Some of you might know him from his work in the co-living market, where he does very high-end co-living projects. He also trains people in that. And then we work together with our apart hotel sites, and also now supporting people to build their own apart hotel portfolios. Okay, so we've got two sites. We've got two apart hotel sites in central Brighton. So we've got one Broad Street and Block 74. Okay, and one of the things that we talk about is the importance of location, of choosing the right location, wherever that is. But you can see here from here that this is like, you know, we're in prime location in Brighton. The sites are actually also very close to one another, which is very useful for some scales of economy and the systemization side of things. But choosing the right location, and there's lots of locations across the country that are great for apart hotels, but it's so important to ensure you do the work and the research, all of the market research, to find the right location for your apart hotels. Now, as I said before, every property project that I've done, I've worked with private investors and used other people's money. So Stuart and I didn't actually put any of our own money into these apart hotel projects, okay? Both of these were purchased properties. They both had extensive refurbishment, but we worked with private investors, okay, to fund these projects. So you don't always have to use your own money. You absolutely need to know what you're doing. If you're working with other people's money, you've got to look after that money. You've got to be responsible. So you need to know what you're doing, but you can fund these kind of projects without any of your own funds. Okay, so before I kind of get stuck into the apart hotel business model, I just want to talk a little bit about the general sort of serviced accommodation market. As a lot of you know, some of you are already in it, it's really a market that's boomed over the last kind of 5 to 10 years. And it's essentially an unregulated market, okay? There's not legislation, there's not strict regulations on the way that what people do with these properties, much like the HMO market used to be back in the day when there was no licensing and all of that. So a lot of people have been operating in this market for a while, lots of people doing it really, really well, providing great accommodation, but it has been an unregulated market and a little bit like the Wild West at times. And obviously that has caught the attention of the government and the councils, because it's unregulated. They haven't been able to make any money out of it as well, charging people for licensing fees and all that kind of stuff. But it has had an impact and it has grown. And the reason why it's grown and become so popular with investors is really due to a number of factors. Now, one of the things was the invention of Airbnb, you know, a great platform that made it really easy for people to rent out rooms in their houses initially, but then people built whole businesses around Airbnb. I mean, traditionally, service accommodation was generally operators providing accommodation to the corporate market. Yeah, you had your furnished holiday lets and holiday destinations, but the service accommodation, as we kind of know it, you know, catered mostly to the kind of corporate market. But then with the event of Airbnb, a lot of people started, you know, doing it within just normal residential apartments rather than purpose-built blocks. Also the rise of rent to rent and how popular that became as a business model. We saw it in HMOs, it moved over to SA, and you know, it was really easy to do. You could pay the landlord the market single let rent and still make a really great profit from doing serviced accommodation. Another big reason why the market really grew is that the effects of Section 24. I mean, I won't go into all the details, but a lot of you know, Section 24 was a tax change that the government brought in, which meant that if you owned a buy-to-let property in your personal name, you could no longer set off the mortgage interest as a business cost, okay? Which meant you started paying tax on money you weren't even earning, you know. So that was in your personal name. But if you were doing it for short stay, you could offset that interest. So that suddenly meant there was a lot that was very attractive for buy-to-let landlords to turn their single lets into Airbnb and serviced accommodation. And you know, that's why it's increased. And of course, the issues that have come with that increase is that a lot of that residential stock has come away from being available to long-term renters, and it's gone into the short stay. So that's attracted attention, because in some locations, some areas, Brighton being one of them, Cornwall another, where, you know, it's become a big problem that there just isn't enough property for people to rent because so many landlords are understandably have moved over to that market. Okay, so then let's, you know, what does that mean? It means that there's a really big SA market shakeup coming, okay? It's already been announced. What we don't know is the timescales. They were talking about rolling out these changes this summer. We haven't seen it yet. I mean, I don't know I guess they knew that the government was going to change, but it is cross-party, so there's no reason to assume that the new government are not going to move forward with these changes at some point. So I'm just going to talk about what they're proposing. So it's not come in, we don't have the details, but there's going to be some kind of national mandatory register. Could be a little bit like HMO licensing. Could be there. It could come with a whole load of health and safety requirements, regulations. We don't know, but there's going to be some sort of mandatory register. There's likely to be a new planning class introduced. So they're talking about a new C5 planning class, which means those C3 residential properties will have to have a planning change of use to be able to continue being used as serviced accommodation or to start being used as serviced accommodation. We don't know if there's going to be any grandfather rights yet or not, but there's likely to be planning permission. Now, the positive side, as you might go planning permission, that the rigmarole of that, but they are also talking about there being a kind of permitted development. So much in the same way that you can take a house in most locations, you can turn a C3 house into a C4 HMO under permitted development without the need for planning permission. So they're talking about a similar thing to that. However, of course, in the areas where there is a problem, the local councils will be given powers to place their own restrictions on this, yeah? So that means that they'll probably bring in some kind of Article 4 direction to limit the ability for residential properties to be converted or used as service accommodation, okay? So that's what they proposed. They announced it in something like February. They said it was going to come in the summer. It hasn't come in, but it's going to happen at some point. They've also taken away some of the benefits that we had. So if you remember, talked about being able to offset that mortgage interest. So that that benefit, I believe, is now gone when you own the property in your personal name. If you own property in the company, you can offset the interest. And the capital allowances, again, is something that's been removed. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this, you know, that's an accountancy, that sort of accountancy stuff. But a lot of those benefits that came with having the furnished holiday lets, a lot of those are being taken away. So it's just not as attractive anymore to those buy-to-let landlords that just kind of dabbled and went into the serviced accommodation. You know, there's other challenges that have faced the property investors over the last couple of years. So as well as these legislation changes, as well as these kind of perks being removed, you know, we've also had the whole Liz Truss fiasco and the massive increase in interest rates, as well as the you know, rise in costs and stuff. So the result of that is it's harder to get smaller deals to stack in this current market. That's just the reality. We talked about it earlier. You know, the market is always changing. So how do we adapt? Those higher interest rates, okay, really squeeze those profits. So the higher interest rates and the stress test by the mortgage companies means that with those single let properties, even if you were running it as an SA, they often still have to meet, you know, for borrowing purposes, they're still lending against the single let rent, so you might not be able to borrow as much money, you're paying higher interest rates, and that's just squeezing things even more. And then the higher running costs, you know, utility costs, again, make it difficult. If you just got one small sort of service accommodation flat, or you're doing this in single residential flats, it just makes it just makes them a bit more financially unviable and tighter to get those margins as they are just reducing. Okay, so I know that all sounds a bit doom and gloom, but let's actually look at where the opportunity is, because this is what it's about. It's going, right, yeah, here's the challenges. Let's recognize the challenges. Now let's see how we can adapt to that and where we can find the opportunity. So we actually believe that the legislation will bring a great amount of opportunity for a lot of people. Okay, I mean, what does everyone think is going to happen when, you know, if you imagine the current serviced accommodation stock, and I'm not talking about for purchasing, I'm talking about that's available for guests to book on the platform, so on all your online OTAs, you know, so all of that stock. So when these legislation changes come in, if you just type in the box, we want a bit of interaction here. So what does everyone think is going to happen when that stock leaves the market? Okay, when you've got you know, you've got the before legislation, you've got after legislation, so you've got this amount, you know, of properties available for guests to book, then after the legislation. What if we can just see some typing in? I don't know if I can see the chat box. What does everyone think is going to happen? We're going to have some comments here. Well, let's see, have a look. Yeah. So fewer SA units available. So Anthony's saying, yeah, fewer SA units available. Okay, so Mike was saying that the rates will have to go up, stock level will drop, fewer properties available. Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about, we're going to see it more profitable for the professionals. Absolutely. So when, you know, you imagine that you know, the demand is still there, but the supply is going. So what happens when there's a shift in supply and demand? When the demand is still there, but the supply reduces, then we've got to think what happens. Well, there's a bounce, isn't there? There's going to be a bounce for those people that are going to stay in the market. So what are the effects of that bounce? So an increase in demand for the people and the businesses still operating within this market. That's going to result in an increase in occupancy. And of course, when you've got that shift in supply and demand, that means that rates are likely to go up too. So on a number of levels, we're going to see a bounce for those businesses staying in this market. So who is it that will actually benefit? Okay, so obviously we've got at the front of the list, the part hotels. Part hotels are going to benefit. Obviously, traditional hotels are absolutely going to benefit, and the guest houses and B&Bs. People in this sector have been waiting for this legislation to come. Okay, they've been wanting it to come for some time. Okay, because they operate in an already regulated market, so they want to see a reduction in the Airbnb that probably affected their business a long time ago when it started rising up. And then SA operators, so service accommodation operators that are working within the correct planning class and are meeting any of those legislation requirements. So if we are seeing new fire and health and safety regs, it's going to be the people that are able to meet those standards. So let's talk about how you can benefit from the bounce. Okay, so what if I told you that you could invest in buildings that are not affected by this upcoming legislation? What if I also told you that you could create multiple service accommodation units, so multiple guest units, okay, multiple guest units in a single building without the need for planning permission? Okay, well, these buildings are actually all around you. They're in most towns and cities that you will be visiting, okay? And I'm going to just take you through some of the terminology. So we're really looking at, and you know, these are the kind of buildings that we can really focus on. So guest houses. So you think about these traditional guest houses and bed and breakfast. Now you might think, what's the difference between guest house and bed and breakfast? Well, the reason why I'm naming and giving you the different terminology is because these are the search terms that you should be using when you're looking across the platforms, when you're looking on Property Filter, when you're actually searching for these buildings, because if they're for sale or if they are marketing their accommodation. Some of them get called guest houses, some of them will call themselves bed and breakfast. They're pretty much the same thing. You might have the owner living on site. Yeah, they're often outdated. And the owners maybe don't have enough money to invest and bring them up to date. And the owners are probably doing everything themselves. They're probably cooking your breakfast, washing your, cleaning your room, washing your laundry, and they've got that kind of old-fashioned feel to them. Then you've got small hotels, again, similar to your guest houses and bed and breakfast, maybe a little bit more of a professional operation. Maybe the owners aren't living there. There could be restaurants and guest lounges within that, a bit bigger. And we're also looking at hostels and backpackers. Our second site actually had been running as a backpackers hostel. Okay, so it was very low grade, shared bathrooms, and that's how it was operating. And what we're really introducing you to here is a C1 use class. Now, sometimes, like with the hostels and backpackers, occasionally you'll get, those kind of buildings where it might be the YMCA or whatever, they are restricted to being that kind of property. But a lot of them, most of those, all of those categories that I've just taken you through fall under what's called the C1 use class, okay? So C1 use class is the hotel accommodation use class, okay? From your smallest bed and breakfast right up to your 500 room Hilton, they're C1. They fall under that C1 use class. Now, the C1 use class is a commercial use class. It already exists. It's already regulated and supported by the council. And if you're going to convert these buildings in the way that we teach you to, so in the way that we show you, we're going to show you how we do it. There's no planning change of use required. You're not changing the use. Okay, we're not telling you that there's a separate apart hotel use class. We are operating within the hotel C1 use class. Okay, we're just modifying the business model. Then we're going to increase the rentable units. So it means that you can increase the rentable units. So any of that unused space can be increased without planning permission. Okay, we're not talking about putting big extensions on or anything like that. So there are obviously things like that might need planning permission, but we can still increase the number of rentable units without planning permission. So let's look at that opportunity with these kinds of buildings. So many of these guest houses and B&Bs are outdated, as I said. And because of this, if the vendors do want to sell, they often struggle to sell quickly. It's not really a fast-moving market. Those of you that are doing HMOs, that can be a really fast-moving market. In popular areas, you go to see an HMO in the morning, it's already gone under offer by the afternoon, you've got to move really quickly. This is not a fast-moving market, so the vendors do often struggle to sell quickly. It's an outdated business model. The way that people are traveling has changed. Guests, where people did used to love to have a chat with the owners and have a breakfast cooked for them. Really, they kind of want convenience. They're quite happy to just turn up and not speak to anyone, have everything as automated and convenient as possible. The event of Airbnb really brought that on, as did COVID, because during COVID, it was all about contact free, people didn't, and that really accelerated the change that we were already seeing. So guests now expect that. That's what they're looking for. It's the modern way that people are traveling. Now, another opportunity is that often the owners will have deliberately low profits. Okay, so maybe they don't operate the building to the max. It's a lifestyle business. They're living there. They may be closed down for the whole of January because that's the only time they get off. And they might deliberately want to keep themselves under the VAT threshold, for example, and have lower profits going through their books for tax reasons. So what the result of that is then sometimes the building doesn't get valued as high as they believe it's worth, or even as high as the buyer would be willing to pay, but it can get downvalued, which can make it difficult for people to get finance on them. So that means, well, all of these challenges for the vendor become opportunity for the buyer to negotiate on terms. So terms that are going to work for you and terms that are going to work for the seller as well. So we always want to look to find that win-win and actually solve the seller's problem along the way. And there is less competition for these deals. Not everyone, more people are definitely interested in this, but it's not, there's not lots and lots of people looking at these buildings right now. I think that's going to change, but right now there's less competition. So let's just talk a little bit about, because obviously I'm using the terminology apart hotels, but let's talk about what apart hotels are. It's a very broad definition. It can be interpreted in many different ways, okay? But it's essentially what the name would suggest. It's a hybrid between an apartment and a hotel, to give you the apart hotel. And the way that we do it is we take a lot of the learnings and the systemization stuff from the service apartment, service accommodation business model, and also a lot from the hotel business model to create this hybrid. Now, as I say, it can be done in a number of ways. You could have like a small block of residential flats, okay, maybe 4 or 5 flats in one block. You run or you control or own the whole block, and you're running them as service accommodation. That's almost like a mini apart hotel, because that's how you're operating it. You might have a mid-size property, which would, like on the left, which is one of ours, which is one of these converted guest house, right up to really big complexes that have, blocks of apartments, but that are apart hotels. They might have gyms in them, restaurants, and they might even have a reception area. And you'll see the ones abroad that have got swimming pools and everything. So it really can vary, but what they are essentially is multiple guest units in a single building, with each unit having a level of self-contained facilities, okay? So the unit could actually still look very like a hotel room, okay? You can see in these examples that we've pulled off the internet that it still looks like a hotel room, but they've got the addition of some kitchenette facilities. It could be like a real full multi-room apartment, okay? But the units have self-contained facilities and are providing hotel services and using hotel booking systems. So we're not talking about, these being people's long-term accommodation. We're talking about you've got housekeeping going in the same way that the hotels have. You've got people on short stays, and you're using a professional booking system where people are not living here, okay? So let's just talk you through how we create our apart hotel. So like our specific focus and goals to create this systemized business. So first of all, we look to acquire, as I said, we are focusing mostly on C1 buildings, because that's the low-hanging fruit. Okay, they're already in the right planning class. So they really are the kind of buildings that you should be focused on. But that's not to say that there aren't other buildings that are really suitable to do apart hotels. There's lots of commercial buildings that you could convert, but of course you would need to go through planning permission for that. So we do, when we're sourcing, we are looking at existing C1, but we're also looking at suitable commercial buildings too. So with the C1, we identify and convert them into our self-service apart hotels, which I'll talk a bit more about in a minute, without the need for planning permission. If we were going to use a commercial building, we would want to secure that on some kind of option agreement, subject to planning, and then that would be a full planning permission and conversion, okay? So it's doable, it's just you would take a different approach to that. So the next thing we look to do, excuse me, is we always look to utilise creative finance in some form or another. Okay, right from the acquisition part through to the long-term funding. So the way we do that, we work with private investors. So that's a creative way of using finance, not using your own money. So working with private investors on a loan basis. You could also look to work with the private investors on a JV basis. I've very much done both throughout my building my property portfolio. Vendor finance. So this is and again, if you remember what I said about the opportunity and the vendor situation, that these kind of properties are really good for vendor finance opportunities. Purchase lease options is another great model that and tool that you can use, especially if the valuations are not coming in because of those owners' deliberate low profits. You can help them by taking on a purchase lease option, which means that you can pay them the price that they want. Once you've been able to add value, that also at the same time gets you to build your experience, your trading history, and increase the value of the building for the point beyond, you know, what you are paying the owner. So lots of opportunities there. And then commercial lending. So, you know, we're not going to our vanilla buy-to-let lenders. We're not using the same funders that you're using for your buy-to-lets or even your HMOs. We're going to specialist lenders. And there's all different types of lenders that will fund these kind of projects. But we work with commercial lenders, we tend to work in a more creative way. So we definitely always look to utilise creative funding. And then really one of our golden rules is you have to be adding value. You have to be adding value. So we're adding value, increasing the number of units in the building, and also, you know, increasing the performance as well, which is going to add the value. So just to illustrate this and give you a bit of an example. So One Broad Street, our first apart hotel. So we took a traditional 8-bedroom B&B. The owners were living on site, they were living in the damp basement, they were cooking the food, they were making the beds, they were doing it all themselves, and they were operating 8 bedrooms in that B&B. Okay, they were all en suite, but they, you know, everything, all the other rest of the building was used for them and for the guests and their office and all that kind of stuff. And then we created and we converted that building into a 12 studio apart hotel. Okay, so we went from 8 guest units to 12 guest units without increasing the footprint of the building. So working within the current, the GIA, the gross internal area, okay, the existing GIA, we were able to add an extra 4 guest units. And so what that meant was we added considerable value to our first apart hotel. So we actually doubled the value. So what it was valued at when we bought it, it was an existing business. These businesses are valued or as commercial businesses because that's what they are. We bought an existing operating B&B and it was valued, which I'll come on to the numbers in a minute. So once we did the work that we were doing, got it operating, showed some trading history, we'd actually doubled the value when we got it revalued, and we tripled the profit from what the previous owners were achieving. Okay, so when we bought it, it was valued at 725,000. Okay, so that's what it was valued at when we bought it. We of course spent money on it. We absolutely spent money on it. We had all our buying costs, stamp duty. We also refurbished the property and we had our finance costs and investor interest. So once we'd all of the other costs on top of the purchase price, it took the total project cost up to just under £1 million. Yeah. So once we refurbished it, paid for our finance costs and all our buying costs, it was just under £1 million. But when we got it revalued, it was revalued at 1.5. So that meant we added just over £500,000 in equity. So if you imagine this sort of like the developer's margin, yeah. So we spent £1 million on it, and then it was worth 1.5. Okay, now in terms of the profit, the owners had a operational profit of 50,000. Okay, once we got ours operating, we got our operational profit up to 160,000. Now, yes, the owners probably were showing deliberate low profit, so they weren't operating it to the max. They weren't operating it as well as they could. They could have made more profit, out of their 8-bedroom, but they were, you know, deliberately keeping, you know, they were closed during January. They were, you know, they hadn't extricated themselves from the business. They weren't, it wasn't systemized. So they were just operating it in the way they were operating it. So they were doing everything themselves. So they were doing the cleaning, the booking, all of that themselves. Our operational profit was 160,000 with other people doing everything else. So we're not in there, you know, we're not in there cleaning or any of that stuff. So we're paying for that. So that operational profit is after paying for the cleaning and the bookings and all of that being done. Okay. Now that's the operational profit. So the other cost that does come off of that is the mortgage interest. Okay. So that's the operational profit, because the operational profit is what gets taken into account when these kind of businesses are valued. Okay, so the next thing we look to do with our projects is to create a great product. You've got to be able to attract those guests in. You want to be constantly improving it. So one of the things that we focus on, and a lot of this will come out of the market research that you do. So it's really important, you know, before you get going, before you start going out and making offers on properties, you do your market research and you really know and understand what the market demand is. Because then you actually adapt your property to fit with the market. So we've got a range of, you know, we'd always look to, with every project, you'd always assess it and look to put in a range and a blend of different unit types, okay? And these can range right up from kind of studio, hotel, sort of hotel room style studios. Then we're looking at like studio suites, which might sleep more people, right up to full apartments. So you could choose to put a full apartment in the floor. Like, so we say you had a basement, you might put a full apartment on one floor of that building. You might not. The market might tell you that actually it would make more sense to have two guest units down there instead of one, but it really depends on what the market tells you. So you have that range of guest unit types across the building. So let's go into these in a bit more detail. So first of all, let's look at the studios and what we would look to put in these. So this is an example of some of our studio rooms across both sites, and you can see the kitchenettes, the seating area. A lot of these will actually have the ability to have either a super king bed, or those are zip and link beds that can be put into twin. So again, you want to be able to cater to different guest types. And then the studio suite. So this is where we'll have, it might still be like a single open plan space, but we can sleep more people in this. So our studio suites will tend to sleep, you know, up to six people. So this one in particular sleeps 4 people. Again, that bed can be separated out, and then you've got your sofa bed and a pull-out bed underneath. But it still works for 2 people, and then they've got a little lounge area. So just a few pictures of our range of studio suites. We've got that one on the top right. We've got a little lounge area that's got a little private bed pod, and then it's got another room that's got multiple beds in it. And we might have some that have outside space too. Then you've got your full apartment. So this is where you've got maybe 1 or 2 bedrooms and a full lounge kitchen area. As I say, you could dedicate a whole floor to apartment if the market, if that's what the market is telling you that there's demand for. So an example of what the apartments might look like. So then the next part is to talk about the level of facility. So we talked about, it being basically guest units that have self-contained facilities, but that can come in different levels, and that is going to depend again on your market research. I will bang on about market research because it is really important. So it's going to depend what the location, what amenities around you, as to what that'll help to dictate your level of facilities. But we look to do it, at one end if we've got like a small unit, and you know, it can be different in different units across the building as well. They don't all have to be the same in the building. So at one, like our very basic, at one end, we'll have like a sort of simple snack station in. We'll still put like a microwave in and fridge and an espresso machine, but it's and crockery, but it's, you know, it's more of a snack station than a full kitchen. Then we'll have our kitchenettes, and these can be varying sizes. You might have depending on the size of the unit, and also the amenities that you've got around you. So you've got your different levels of kitchenettes. You know, sometimes you might have hobs in there, or otherwise it might just be microwaves. And then you've got your full kitchen. So this is when you're more in the apartment style guest units. And it's going to depend what kind of who your target market is as well. You've got to understand your target market and know what they are looking for. So you have your full kitchens, which has got everything in it. And again, depending on the location, what amenities there are, you may or may not have some communal space in your apart hotel. Okay, so you might have some communal space that all the guests can access. You know, plenty to consider in terms of how you manage that, whether it makes sense to have that as an income generating unit, or, you know, or whether actually you do have communal space because that's what, you know, just because of the location. So that is something that you can consider as well. And when we're working with people, so when we've got our people that are doing our training, they bring their leads, they bring their projects to us, and we actually help them to ascertain, you know, what might be the best use of the building that they've got, because it could depend on the layout as well. So then the next thing that we always look to do with all our projects is ensure that we systemize the business. Okay, I'm sure, you know, most of you, if you're you know, you're wanting to get into property, you're already in property because you want to improve your lifestyle. You don't want to be trading your time for money. You don't want to be in the rat race. You don't want to be working a job for the rest of your life. And that's why most people get into property. So we don't want to create ourselves another day job. You know, so systemizing the business, so that really is giving us the freedom to work on the business, not in it. Okay, Stuart and I do not get involved in the day-to-day operations. Yeah, so we're not speaking to guests on the phone, we're not dealing with maintenance contractors, we're not doing that day-to-day. We of course oversee the business at a strategic level. It's our business. You've got responsibility for your business, you don't abdicate, but you absolutely systemize it so that you're not doing those day-to-day tasks. And there's a few elements that go into systemizing this kind of business. You've got to have the right software and the right technology. So you look to have like a range, you know, a stack of software and tech to ensure it's all integrated and you can get that systemization in. You're going to need to get the right team in place. You need to have people, you will have technology, you will have software, but it is a service industry, it's a service business. Your guest needs to be able to have someone that answer the phone to them if they need to call. So you need a great team. So you do need a great team, but you really need the processes for your team to follow. Because you might go, well, it's great, I've got myself a VA, so that means because I've got myself a VA, that means I don't have to speak to the guests again. Okay, I will never have to speak to the guests again because my VA is doing it. Trouble is, you're just talking to your VA all the time because your VA is calling you to say, well, I've had a call from a guest, or I've got this problem, I've got that problem, and you're still fielding calls all day. It just happens to be from the VA and not the guest. That's because you don't have the processes in place for your team to follow. So it's all very well having a team, but unless you've got the processes, you're still going to be bogged in the day-to-day. So we've got processes in place that our team can follow. So it's very, very rare for any of the team to call us. We check in with them, we have scheduled meetings, but it's very rare that the team will call us about something that's happened because they've got all the processes to deal with it. Yes, John, VA, virtual assistant. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And then we want to automate as much of these processes as possible. We want to have as much automation in there with the whole guest experience and the booking, because that's what's going to help to systemize the business. And then the benefits of having that systemized business is you've got a leaner model. So you've got a leaner business model, which means you've got increased profit margins. You've got a leaner business model. And again, like we've got a small team because of the systemization. Yes, we've got a team, but you know, it's not a big team. We don't have loads of staff. It's very small because of the processes and the systems that are following. So that means it's nice and lean, which is going to increase our profit margins. And the more that you can increase your profit margins, the higher the value is going to be of that asset. Because as I said, these kinds of projects and businesses are valued on their performance. It's a commercial business, okay? Yes, there's a building there. Yes, there's bricks and mortar that is taken into account in the valuation, but what drives the value is the performance. And if you can improve the performance, you're going to increase the value of the asset. And then if you've got that systemization in place, it's going to give you that ability to scale. Yeah, because you've freed up your time. You can focus on the bits that you enjoy, the bits that you're good at, which is building the business, and you can scale. And while scaling, you get scales of economy. So, you know, for example, when we, when we launched our second apart hotel, we doubled the number of guest units, but we in no way doubled our costs. We didn't double the time that our team needed to spend. We didn't even need to increase the team, okay? We didn't need to increase our core operations team. They were able to handle, because of the systemization, we needed them to be available a certain amount of time for the first one, but when we added the second one, we just had to increase their hours slightly. Okay, so we didn't need to increase the team, we just needed to increase the hours slightly. So we got scales of economy, and that then brings the overall costs down. Yeah, because we're using the same systems, we're able to build on what we'd already created. Okay, so let's just go through the key takeaways from this presentation, and then can get on to any questions that you've got. So C1 buildings. So we've introduced you to the C1 use class, which is that hotel accommodation use class. We've talked about the legislation and the fact that this model operating within this use class is not going to be affected by the upcoming legislation. We've also seen how people staying in the short stay market, those that are able to operate professionally, are actually going to benefit from the legislation, from these changes, from these challenges, from that squeeze. You know, we're looking at bigger deals, and we are adapting to what the market is throwing at us. Then we talked about actually where there's a lot of opportunity to use creative finance with these kind of projects, maybe more so than with other property projects, because it's a slower moving market. The vendors can sometimes struggle to sell. There's more room for negotiating on terms. You know, it's always got to work. It's always got to work for the vendor. It's always got to work for you. But there's more opportunity to be creative. And then we talked about the importance of having that design-led product, and that the systemization is really going to create that high profit strategy, so that bigger deals with multiple guest units in a single building. Okay, and we're not talking about having lots of individual separate flats. Okay, so when you think of service accommodation, you're thinking about, you know, residential apartments. A lot of the time we're talking about operating within the same use class and adapting the building to this business model without needing to go through all of that planning, permission, rigmarole. Of course, any work that you do, any conversions, we're always working to building regulations. We've got very, very stringent health and safety, fire regulations, and you absolutely will meet building regulations. So how can you get your first apart hotel? So Stuart and I have training where we are helping people to build their own apart hotels portfolios. When we did this back in 2017, no one was teaching this stuff, and it was definitely, I think, trial and terror is what we call it, isn't it, Gilliam? Where, you know, when no one else is out there doing it, we had to learn the hard way, and we made a lot of mistakes. We did make a lot of mistakes, and so what we like to do is we like to share the mistakes that we made with our students, so that they don't make the same mistakes and they can actually do it better than us. So we've got three core products in the way that we help people. So we've got our discovery day, which I'm going to give you a bit more information shortly. We've got our 6-week accelerators, people that really want to get started. So it's a series of online videos to help people get started. Then we've got our flagship 6-month mastermind. We have full day workshops every month. We're giving people one-to-one support, and all of our business templates and spreadsheets and everything. So basically business in a box with a lot of support. Okay, but today I want to just talk to you about the Discovery Day and take you to a really special offer that that Gilliam's arranged for you, and we're very happy to provide. So the Discovery Day, so the purpose of the Discovery Day is really for you to come get immersed. I mean, we've only had an hour today. It's not enough time to go into it in detail. Hopefully you've got some insight into this. But really, this is about you coming on this day, and by the end of it, you know, knowing whether this is the right business model for you. It might not be the right business model for you. It's not going to be right for everybody, but you come and spend a day with us, you're going to learn a lot, and then you can really work out if this is the business model that you want to pursue, and you're going to have some really great content to go away and get started. So we're going to talk about the importance of identifying your target area and consider and all of the research, all the market data that you need to research, like your customer and competitor analysis, rates and occupancy. So talking through, this is really all about this session is really all about all the number data that you need to gather. So all of the market information that's going to inform whether or not the deal stack for you. So knowing what you need to do, knowing everything that you need to bring in to help you to ascertain if that deal's going to stack. Okay. So that's what, you know, informs all your deal stacking. So we'll give you the overview of the deal stacking, everything you need to think about, and the apart hotel funding options. So, you know, as I said, these are not funded, you know, it has their own type of funding. You can use creative finance, all of that. So we'll go over details on the funding side of things. Then in session 2, it's going to be all about finding those deals. Okay, this is very much where Property Filter comes into play, and the conversion of the buildings and that design and marketing piece. So how finding the suitable buildings. So we touched on it today, so we'll get more detail into those C-1 buildings, what makes them suitable, all the things that you need to think about, those sourcing strategies. So how do you utilize like software like Property Filter to help you find these deals? And then the conversion, so the things that you need to consider when you're converting these buildings, you know, the overview of all the intricacies of that. Space design techniques, so how you design that space, because we want it to be aesthetically pleasing, but we also want it to be really functional. You know, these are high traffic areas, more so than sort of residential accommodation. So those space design techniques so that you can optimize the building. And then of course, you know, you need to build a brand around this. You need to market yourself well. So we'll be talking about the branding and marketing side. And then on the last session, it's going to be all about that operations and systems, and then we'll go into more detail and share case study with you on our apart hotels. So operations, so about building the team, so understanding how you build that team, who you need, an overview of the whole operation. So you imagine like all the different elements that are involved in the operational side of things, and the importance of having a technology and systems in place, and also that ongoing, you know, that's all about you having the business, but you've got to absolutely keep on top the financial side of it. So how do you systemize and structure that financial side to ensure your ongoing performance is you're keeping on top of it. Basically, it's the business side of it once you've got going. And then we'll share that case study. So really, as across the day, you know, we are covering the whole sort of beginning to end of the journey, which is going to give you that insight and help you to ascertain if this is the business model that you want to pursue. So it's the Discovery Day. It's a one-day event. It's live on Zoom. So it's not in person, it's on Zoom, which means you can attend from the comfort of your own home from anywhere in the country. We have people overseas as well, come on. So that's the beauty of the Zoom. So it is hosted by myself and Stuart. So we will personally both be there together to provide the training. So area market research, as I said, really important. That's all the foundation stuff there. Finding and stacking those deals is really important that you understand how to do that. Conversion of this and the space design, the operations and systems, and a case study to just show you how it's then been put into practice. And then of course we will have an interactive Q&A session, so we'll have opportunities. So it's like this. It's not, you know, we don't have loads of people on the Discovery Day. We keep the group relatively small. We want everyone to have their cameras on. We want lots of interaction, lots of questions. You can all see each other. You can see us. So very much an interactive day. So then we've got 2 dates. So just 2 dates, which is Sunday the 8th of September, which is just over a week away, and then Friday the 18th of October, okay? So it's a Sunday and a Friday. So the price for that would normally be $297 plus VAT, so that's the price that's on our website. But we've agreed with Gilliam to give you a very special offer today, and so we're going to give you a discount code, which is going to be live for 40 hours, which is with just 147 plus VAT, so that's £150 discount. That's just a pop-up. Yeah, so if you go to that page, then you go to book the Discovery Day. Okay, so you just book the Discovery Day. Then you can see here it's got the 2 dates. Yeah, so if you select the date, so say you select the here and then bring up the box, and then it'll say, do you have a coupon code? So you can see there the price is $297 plus VAT. Then we type in filter 150, and then you just press that tick button there. Okay, and then you see that provides you with that discount of 150, and then you just carry on with the payment there. Okay, so let me just put that link in so that, yeah, ignore there's a pop-up box that come up. You can just close that, then you go on and you can book on to the Discovery Day there. Right, okay, let's just bring that slide up again. Okay, cool. So if there is any questions about anything we covered today, or if you've got more questions about the Discovery Day, then please do type them in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carly. You know, thanks for putting this together.
No problem at all.
And as you said, it's really important the way you structured it, because most people can get excited about something, maybe get too much into it, and I think it's a good opportunity. I know this one day is quite a nice full of content day. You got everything you need to decide if this is for you or not. And
exactly. I mean, we don't want people to start spending thousands of pounds on a course that they're not even sure. So it's really a bit of a no-brainer, you know, for a small price. You can come on, learn, you know, get an overview on that whole strategy, and really come away with that, you know, with knowing that it's right for you and it's what you pursue.
Yeah, it's very much for you if you are into service accommodation, into develop, you know, like the buy-to-SA, running, you know, hospitality businesses, and you want to future-proof and really have a first sort of mover advantage with all of these changes, you know, that Carlys talked about. The government's hinting every week, you know, different holiday tax and all sorts of things going on at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's for anyone who wants to create a essay empire, very robust. So that's quite a good one. I've had really good feedback when we've recommended this before. So yeah, if you recognize
You know,
yourself in this, so.
we've had a few of you guys come on, and yeah, it's absolutely just really sort of immersive day to come in. Yeah, people we get a lot of people that are already doing service accommodation. You know, quite a few people that have been on our 6-month mastermind are already service accommodation operators. And not only have they been learning about how to do apart hotels and all the nuances around that, but actually make improvements to their existing service accommodation business. So
Yeah.
a lot of our operational templates, because we provide operation or manual templates. So we give you all of our SOPs, as they're called, standing operating procedure templates that you can just adapt to your own business. So, you know, we've got some of our service accommodation guys that have actually then used those in their existing business to improve the systemization in their existing business. So it really helps, but they're also learning how to do this very specific model, the nuances of the building, of the conversion, of the compliance side of things. You know, so there's a lot to think about in this kind of business. Okay, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not. But it's about but having it systemized means that you're not having to do all of that stuff yourself. It's just about knowing the how, isn't it? And knowing who as well you get involved. So, you know, we're not doing it all ourselves. We outsource stuff, we systemize stuff. All of that. So it's you just need to know what it is that you don't know what you don't know, do you? So you just need to know what you're. Should we go to some
questions? Anthony's asking, do apart hotel work as social housing? I think it's not quite wouldn't be quite the segment.
No, I mean, I do social housing within my HMO model, so that it's a different business model. I mean, obviously you get it's the use, but if someone's living there, that's someone's only home. It's not really an apart hotel. Apart hotel is a short stay accommodation, like a hotel, like service accommodation. It's short stay, so it's not people's main residence. Yeah, so the only way in which a kind of C1 building could be used in in a social housing context would be like as temporary emergency accommodation. That might fall within the sort of C1 use class, but it really have to depend on how it's being used, because planning and use class is all about how the building's being used. And there's some like accommodation types that really grey that area. So social housing usually is when people are living there, that usually is their main residence. So it's not very often that would fall under a kind of C1 use class. So if you started using a C1 building for social housing, you're not operating in your correct use class. A lot of nuance around it. I mean, obviously I operate in both sectors, and there's always caveats, there's always, to buildings, but it's all about knowing what you're looking for. So, Stuart and I have both got a lot of experience in development and doing projects that need planning and all different types of projects. So it's like, we bring all of that experience and history to our training. So it's like we're not just sort of limiting our knowledge sharing to the apart hotels. We bring in all of our experience.
And the model with these is very much to acquire, control underperforming B&Bs and guest houses and things like that, and by design, by operation, just rank up the value a lot, because you get a much bigger EBITDA on the other side. So it's very much a commercial play in terms of increase the revenue of the assets, and therefore increase the the value of the assets. So it works really. I mean, I can see the model work really, really well, so.
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking for, underperforming like guest houses, B&Bs, but that are in good locations. Okay. And the reason why they're underperforming is because they're outdated, because the owners are not not managing it that well, you know, so you're not necessarily going, well, you know, I found this B&B that's kind of out of town and there's nothing else around it, and it's, you know, that might end that it's underperforming. It's like, well, it might be underperforming because it's outdated, but it might also be underperforming because it's not in a great location. So you do really need to understand how to find location, how to find the right location, how to carry out all of that market research and everything to know whether the location's good. Then you know that there's a lot of, you know, it's all about bringing all the nuance and all the elements together that are going to make a great deal.
And I don't know if you mentioned it because I had to take a phone call at some point, but you know, there's got to be something to do with lots of self-operating B&Bs and guest houses. People are retiring now. You know, it's just natural. All the baby boomer businesses, you know, looking for an exit right now. There's got to be a bit of a wave of the later generation baby boomers basically coming to, you know, looking for retirement for this. So I think there's a lot of reason why this work and would work now.
And they want to, you know, they want to get out. Sometimes it's difficult for them. So, but yeah, you're absolutely, because and because it just is an old-fashioned model, and they're not necessarily they don't have the money to invest. They might be sitting on an asset, a high value asset that they've owned for a number of years, and often, you know, they don't have mortgages on them and stuff, which actually can bring opportunities with it.
Yeah.
But they don't have the cash to put to bring it up to date, and they probably don't have the inclination either, you know. But you know, they've maybe been successful in the past, but they're not moving with the times.
Yeah.
I can
Awesome.
see Aid is asking about the cost for the 6 weeks. Oh no, 6 weeks and 6 months. Yeah, so if you go onto our website, Aid, you won't see the 6 weeks advertised on Aid at the moment. That is a new product. Okay, we're actually running it at the moment. We've got people on that at the moment. The 6 months, if you go on the same link, the website, you can see where there was the book, the discovery day. There was also a button that said download our brochure. So that's actually a brochure for the mastermind. So that'll give you a lot of information on the 6-month mastermind. It will give you the price, but bear in mind, if you do come on the discovery day, we will have a special offer on that. But if you're interested in the 6 month and you want to have a conversation with us about it, you can book a call on our website as well. But download the brochure; it's got all the information in there. But you know, if you're really interested in, come on the discovery day, and we will give you a special offer on the mastermind date as well.
Okay. Got RK is made a comment about rent to SA. Does he, what's the longevity basically of rent to SA in the context of maybe a higher rental demands?
Does anyone think rent to SAs will still works with high rental demands? So when you say high rent,
I'm guessing maybe it's like the single-let rents going up.
yeah. I mean, again, it's like that. As I was saying earlier, when the market changes, often the deals that used to stack don't stack anymore. So if single let rents are going up a lot, the challenge with doing SA on individual residential apartments, and the thing that has made it more challenging is rising residential rents is one, and then obviously an increase in the costs of operating, so your utility costs. So that maybe stacked before doesn't stack as well now, and also so that doesn't mean that it's not going to work in some places. It's just it might mean it's more challenging, but there will still definitely be locations where rent to SA work. But it's there's no doubt about it that it's definitely become more challenging, like as things do. And also you might have landlords that are not as keen on doing it anymore because they're not necessarily getting those same perks that they were getting. And if this legislation comes in, some of those landlords might not like the idea of their properties use class changing. And but that doesn't it's not like you sort of go, well, it just doesn't work at all. It's not about okay, going, well, this has all changed, so that just means that one strategy is not going to work at all. It's going to mean there are certain places where it now maybe won't work as well, but there's always going to. So it's always about course correcting and adapting rather than just completely, abandoning.
But it's true, like we've seen this with like rent to HMO, it was a good strategy 10 years ago, and then, everybody jumps on a bandwagon, and then there's more and more competition, and they go through a cycle, and I can certainly see that, the good days of rent to SA certainly are probably behind. So this is, or maybe we are at the inflation now because of many reasons and factors. And certainly, the deals you do now, you'll never be able to do them in a year's time, especially on the rent to model, so.
And they are there, and it is more challenging. But then, having said that, one of our mastermind students has just signed up to rent SA deals in the last 2 months, and they're going great. So it's like so there are still people doing it, and there are still people making a success of it. But it's absolutely still, it is more challenging. But it's about just having that solution focused mindset, and that doesn't mean you flog a dead horse, but it does mean that you kind of go, okay, well, what can I adapt to? How can I approach this?
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Anthony's asking, how do you know what apart hotel model in terms of amenities we put in works in different areas?
Yeah, so then it's all about that market research. So it's all about understanding what the market research is, what the data is that you need to gather, how you analyze that data, and that's going to help to inform that. Okay, so it's like, there's a lot involved in it. So it really is, and we will talk about that quite a lot on the discovery day, just that importance of that market research, because that is by gathering that data, you start to understand what the demand is, and that's going to help you to work out what facilities and amenities to actually put in the building. And it also depends on the building itself, and so there are a number of factors involved. But it really is all about that market research.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Seems like this is the questions. Do you have any sort of closing sentiment, Carly, for today?
No, I mean, it would just be really great to see. I know a few of you on there. It'd be great to see if anyone is already signed up to the Discovery Days coming in. You can obviously have a think about it, but do just let us know if you're in. And then, the last things that I just want to say is, just thank you for having me and spending your valuable time, and maybe not getting out in the sun on your lunch break.
Only you are in Brighton, like there's no sun elsewhere.
Yeah, Mexico in. Oh, thank you, Anthony. So no, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I would just say this is a really great time to be, if you are interested in this strategy, this is a really great time to start looking at it, because we're coming out of the summer season. So this is the time that owners, they're usually very busy in the summer. So what happens is, if any ideas of selling, they kind of put off because they're just too busy in the summer. So as we're coming out of the summer, this is the time that we really want to be looking forward and targeting those kind of properties. So if it is something that you're interested in pursuing, I would say that just start thinking about sooner rather than later, because this right now, at this time of year, is a good time to start looking for these kind of properties, know what you're looking for. And then also, I think more people, the interest rates are starting to go down, more investors. So the people, so you've got kind of insider knowledge, which is great because you're part of this community. You're getting to hear about things in different ways, not just this, but all the other things that Gilliam shares with you. You're getting to hear about things a lot sooner than other people. So you've got that sort of early mover advantage. But the reality is there's a lot of investors that are kind of been sitting back for a few months, but as we're now seeing that interest rates are probably going to drop again, as we're kind of coming towards the end of the market, that's when the more nervous investors will come out, and I think there's going to be a lot more people just in general property strategies. I don't know if you agree, Gillian, but
Yeah.
you know, I think we're going to, towards the end of this year and into next year, we're going to see a lot more investor activity.
It's gonna be more busy, yeah.
So just always think about getting your early moves in.
Yeah, Carly, thanks so much. Thank you everyone for joining us on today's Deal Finder Corner. So do visit the link Carly shares and do make good use of, you know, the kind of deals like this we negotiate for you. In the meantime, visit propertyfilter.co.uk, log on to your PropertyFilter account, follow the blueprint, have an endless supply of deals, join the top 1% and become a high achiever deal finder. I hope you enjoyed today's Deal Finder Corner like I did and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me. Lovely to see you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.